I gave my brother exactly one chance to tell the truth. We were sitting in the investor meeting, and when they asked who handles your core technology, he could have said my name. He could have acknowledged the 8 years I'd spent building every system that made our $45 million valuation possible. Instead, he smiled and said, "I've always been the technical brain of the operation." That's when I stood up, gathered my laptop, and walked toward the door. "Maya, where are you going?" he called after me. I turned back with a smile. To watch what happens when you try to access any of your systems in the next 30 minutes. My name is Maya Chen, and I'm 29 years old. For the past 8 years, I've been the invisible force behind Tech Vault Solutions, a cybersecurity startup based in San Francisco that my brother Marcus and I supposedly founded together. I say supposedly because while Marcus had always introduced himself as the founder and CEO, and our father Richard always bragged about his son's brilliant tech company, the reality was quite different. I had written every single line of critical code. I had designed the architecture. I had created the AI algorithms that made us worth $45 million. But in our family's eyes, I was just Marcus's little helper, the quiet girl who was good with computers. The conference room at Silver Peak Ventures had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown San Francisco. 12 investors sat around the mahogany table, their eyes fixed on Marcus as he delivered his pitch with the confidence of someone who truly believed his own lies. I had been sitting in the corner, my usual spot during these meetings, my laptop open but mostly ignored. They rarely asked me questions directly. When they did, Marcus usually jumped in to answer for me. So the core AI security system, Jennifer Walsh, the lead partner at Silver Peak, had asked, "Who developed that?" This was it, the moment Marcus could have chosen honesty. The moment that would determine whether I walked out of this meeting as his sister and business partner, or as something else entirely. "I developed it over the course of 3 years, Marcus said smoothly. "It's based on advanced machine learning algorithms that predict security threats before they happen. The system has a 99.7% accuracy rate, which is why we've been able to attract clients like DataCore and Cloud Secure." Every word was true, except the part about who developed it. I had spent 3 years of my life, countless sleepless nights, debugging sessions that lasted until sunrise, teaching myself advanced cryptography and machine learning, all to create that system. The patents were filed under my name. The original code repository showed my commits. But somehow, in Marcus's version of reality, he had done it all. I closed my laptop with a soft click. Marcus glanced at me, confusion crossing his face, but he kept talking. I stood up, sliding my laptop into my bag. That's when he stopped mid-sentence. "Maya, where are you going?" I looked at him across the conference room, and for the first time in 8 years, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. To watch what happens when you try to access any of your systems in the next 30 minutes. The room fell silent. Marcus forced a laugh. My sister has a flair for the dramatic. She's probably just upset that I didn't mention her contributions. But I was already at the door. "Good luck with your demo, Marcus. I'm sure you'll figure out how to access the system you allegedly built." The story of how I became the invisible founder started 8 years ago, when I was 21 and Marcus was 26. I had just graduated from Stanford with a degree in computer science, specializing in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Marcus had graduated 3 years earlier with a business degree and had been working at a consulting firm, making PowerPoint presentations about synergy. One evening, Marcus came to me with an idea. Companies are getting hacked left and right. What if we created a security system that could predict attacks before they happen? I explained it was possible, but incredibly complex. It would require advanced algorithms, massive amounts of training data, and years of development. Marcus waved away my concerns. "You're the tech genius, I'll handle the business side. We'll be partners, 50-50. Our father, Richard Chen, who had made his fortune in commercial real estate, was thrilled. Finally, his son was going to build something meaningful. He invested $500,000 as seed money, and we launched Tech Vault Solutions. From day one, the division seemed fair. I would build the technology, Marcus would bring in clients. But slowly, the narrative began to shift. At networking events, Marcus would introduce himself as the founder, and me as my sister, She helps with the technical side. When journalists wanted interviews, Marcus took the lead while I sat silently. When our father bragged to his friends, he'd say, "My son Marcus founded a tech company, and Maya works for him." I told myself it didn't matter. The work was what mattered. Besides, Marcus was my brother. We were family. Surely he would give me credit when it really mattered. But as the company grew, Marcus's version of reality became increasingly divorced from truth. He started telling people he'd coded the system himself. He took sole credit for patents, listing me as the inventor. He created a company origin story that barely mentioned my role. The breaking point came 3 months ago, during a family dinner at our parents' house in Pacific Heights. We were celebrating TechVault's $10 million Series A funding round that valued the company at $45 million. Our father raised his glass to Marcus, who had the vision and technical brilliance to build something extraordinary. "You've made the Chen family proud." I sat there, waiting for Marcus to correct him. Waiting for my brother to say, "Actually, Maya built the technology." But Marcus simply smiled and accepted the praise. That night, I went home and made a decision. I pulled up the company's technical infrastructure and started implementing something I'd been planning but hoped I'd never need. A kill switch. Over the next 3 months, working late nights, I systematically locked down every critical system behind authentication protocols only I could access. The AI security system, client databases, proprietary algorithms, cloud infrastructure, everything. I was careful, implementing changes gradually so no one noticed. Every password, every encryption key, every access token was tied to my personal authentication. I told myself it was insurance. But watching Marcus claim my work in front of those investors, I realized the day had come. As I stepped out of Silver Peak Ventures, my phone began buzzing. Marcus had tried to access the demo environment. Access denied. Backup password. Access denied. Emergency override. Access denied. My phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I silenced it. A text appeared. "Maya, what did you do? The demo isn't working." I typed back. Maybe the person who actually built the system should have been the one presenting it. Then I turned off my phone and walked to a coffee shop. I ordered a cappuccino and opened my laptop. I had work to do, but not for TechVault anymore. The next 2 hours were chaos. Tom, our lead engineer who knew the truth, sent encrypted updates. Marcus had a meltdown. Investors left after 30 minutes. He's screaming at everyone trying to figure out what happened. "He just called your dad. This is going to get ugly. He's threatening to sue you. Says you sabotaged the company." I smiled at that last message. Sabotage. As if securing systems I'd built was illegal. I sent Tom a response. "Tell Marcus I'll be at the office at 4 p.m. At 3:45, I walked into our Soma office. The workspace was quiet, tension thick in the air. Employees watched as I walked toward the glass conference room where Marcus was pacing. Also there were our father, looking stern, and Marcus's best friend Tyler, our CFO. They'd been strategizing how to handle the Maya problem. I walked in without knocking. Marcus spun around. "What the hell did you do? You just cost us $45 million. Silver Peak pulled out." "Good," I said calmly. "Because the deal was based on lies." Our father stepped forward. "Maya, this childish behavior needs to stop. You've embarrassed your brother. Restore access immediately and we can discuss your concerns later." I looked at him. "Dad, I need you to understand something. Marcus didn't build TechVault. I did. You worked on it together," Tyler said. I pulled up a screen and turned my laptop toward them. "This is the GitHub repository for our core system. You can see that 97% of the code was written by me. Marcus contributed 3 files, and 2 were README documents." I kept going. "These are the patent filings. I'm listed as sole inventor on all 47 patents. These are technical design documents, all authored by me. These are emails where I explained concepts to Marcus because he didn't understand the systems." I pulled up another screen. "And this is a security audit I commissioned 3 months ago. Every critical system is built on code I personally wrote. Marcus has never committed a single line to production." The room fell silent. Tyler stared at the screen, pale. Our father looked confused. Marcus looked defeated. So what do you want? Marcus asked quietly. You want me to admit you're smarter? Fine. Now fix the systems. I don't want you to admit I'm smarter. I want you to acknowledge the truth. I want the company restructured to reflect reality. And I want you to understand that respect isn't something you grant when convenient. Our father cleared his throat. Maya, be reasonable. Don't throw away $45 million because your feelings are hurt. Let me explain something about that valuation. The technology I built is worth $45 million. The client relationships Marcus cultivated are worth maybe $5 million. But the core value is sitting right here. I pointed to my laptop. And I own it. Tyler frowned. The company owns the IP. That was in the founding agreement. I smiled. Actually, the IP assignment agreement was never properly executed. I raised this with Marcus 2 years ago. He said he'd have our lawyer fix it. He never did. I slid a folder across the table. Letters from our corporate attorney confirming the IP assignment was never completed. Every patent, every piece of code I created technically belongs to me personally. The company has an implied license, but I'm the actual owner. Marcus grabbed the folder, hands shaking. You're saying you own everything? I'm saying I own what I created. Which is everything that makes this company valuable. So here's what's happening. We're restructuring. I want 85% equity. Marcus keeps 10%, Dad retains 5%. 85%? Marcus exploded. I built 97% of the technology. I created 100% of the patents. You've spent 8 years selling something I built and taking credit. 85% is generous. Our father shook his head. You can't rewrite the agreement because you're upset. And you'll be compensated with 10%. At $45 million valuation, that's $4.5 million. Not bad for sales work. But I'm not giving equal credit for work he didn't do just because we're family. Tyler looked nervous. If you push this, it would tear the family apart. The family was torn apart the first time Marcus lied about who built this company. I'm just making sure the world knows the truth. I continued, my voice absolutely certain. This isn't negotiation. I'm not asking permission. I've already filed restructuring paperwork. I've met with 3 law firms who confirmed IP ownership is clear. And I've had conversations with 2 VC firms interested in funding my next company if Tech Vault doesn't work out. Marcus slumped into a chair. You've been planning this for months. Years. I've been documenting everything since you first took credit for my work. Every lie, every dismissal, every meeting where you called yourself sole founder. I have emails, recordings, witness statements. I've built an airtight case. Our father looked struck. Why would you go to such lengths against your family? Because my family went to great lengths to erase me. Do you know what it's like to build something, only to watch your brother take credit? To hear your father toast your brother's technical brilliance, when you're sitting right there, knowing you wrote every line of code? I stood up. I gave Marcus a chance this morning. One chance to tell the truth. He chose to lie. Now he lives with consequences. The office had gone silent. Through the glass walls, employees watched. Tom caught my eye and nodded. He'd known this was coming. Maya, wait, Marcus said, his voice smaller now. What do you want from me? I turned back. Sign the restructuring agreement. Send corrections to every investor, every journalist you've lied to about who built this technology. And understand that I'm not your assistant or little sister who's good with computers. I'm the founder and creator of Tech Vault Solutions. And if I don't, then I revoke the company's license to use my technology, I file a lawsuit for fraud and IP misappropriation, and I watch Tech Vault collapse while I build something new. Your choice. Our father tried once more. Think about the family. I have been thinking about the family, Dad. For 8 years. I've been thinking about how it felt to be invisible. How you never once asked me about my work, never acknowledged my contributions. I've been thinking about the family constantly. Now I'm also thinking about myself. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. Marcus, after consulting attorneys who confirmed I had an ironclad legal position, signed the restructuring agreement. The company was reorganized with me holding 85% equity and the title of founder and CTO. Marcus retained 10% and became Chief Revenue Officer. The hardest part was sending correction notices. Marcus had to email every investor, every client, every journalist, explaining that previous statements about the company's founding had been incomplete, and that Maya Chen was the principal creator of TechVault's technology. The response was immediate. Tech journalists reached out to interview me. Women in tech forums shared my story. 2 prominent VC firms contacted me about funding future projects. But the message from Silver Peak Ventures surprised me most. Jennifer Walsh called directly. "Maya, I owe you an apology. We should have done better due diligence. If you're interested, we'd love to restart the acquisition conversation, with you leading discussions." The acquisition closed 3 months later for $52 million, $7 million more than the original offer. Investors paid a premium knowing the actual creator would stay on. I walked away with $44.2 million. Marcus got $5.2 million. My father kept his investment plus a small return. Family dynamics shifted. Marcus moved to Los Angeles, taking a job focused on business development, which he was actually good at. We talked occasionally, awkward conversations where he'd apologize and I'd try to move past resentment. My father struggled most. His self-image had been built around having a successful tech entrepreneur son. Accepting his daughter was the real force meant confronting his biases. We started having dinners again after 6 months, carefully avoiding the past. But the relationship that surprised me was with my mother, Linda, who'd been quietly watching from the sidelines. One evening, she visited my new office in Palo Alto, where I was building my next company. "I should have said something," she told me. "All those years, watching Marcus take credit, watching your father praise him while ignoring you. I should have spoken up. Why didn't you?" She was quiet. "Because I understood what it was like to be invisible. I spent 30 years as Richard Chen's wife, the woman behind the successful businessman. I told myself it didn't matter. But watching it happen to you, I realized how much it cost me to stay silent." We cried together that evening, 2 women who'd spent too long making themselves small. 2 years after the acquisition, I was in a San Francisco coffee shop reviewing my new startup's pitch deck when a young woman approached nervously. "Excuse me, are you Maya Chen?" I nodded, and she smiled. "I wanted to say thank you. I'm ACS major at Berkeley, and I read about what you did. How you fought for recognition. It inspired me to stop letting my male lab partner take credit. I filed a complaint, and now they require individual contribution statements for all team projects." She left, and I sat thinking about unexpected consequences. I hadn't set out to be a symbol. I'd just been tired of being invisible. But in fighting for myself, I'd given other women permission to do the same. My new company, CipherCore, launched with $20 million in funding, with me as sole founder and CEO. The technology, next-generation quantum-resistant encryption, was even more advanced than TechVault. But this time, there was no question about who was building it or who deserved credit. Every article about CipherCore started the same way. Maya Chen, the founder who fought to reclaim credit at TechVault Solutions, is back with an even more ambitious project. I framed one article and hung it in my office as a reminder. A reminder that silence and patience have limits. That family loyalty doesn't mean accepting erasure. That sometimes the most radical thing you can do is refuse to be invisible. 3 years after walking out of that investor meeting, I was invited to speak at Stanford's graduation. Standing at the podium, looking at hundreds of young faces, I told them my story. "Some of you will face situations where others try to take credit for your work," I said. "You'll be told that being a team player means staying quiet, that making waves will hurt your career, that family should come before your advancement. You'll have to decide what price you're willing to pay for visibility." I paused. Fighting back isn't easy. There are consequences. I damaged relationships with my brother and father in ways we're still repairing. But I gained something more valuable: truth. The world knows who I am and what I built. No one can take that away. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, young women shared their own stories of being overlooked. Each asked, "How did you find courage?" I always gave the same answer: I didn't find courage. I reached the point where staying invisible hurt more than the fear of fighting back. Looking back, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Marcus had told the truth in that meeting. Would I have stayed? Would we still be partners? But then I remember all the times before, all the opportunities he'd had to give me credit. And I realize his lie wasn't an aberration. It was just the most blatant example of something happening for 8 years. Sometimes I still get late-night messages from Marcus. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. And I believe he means it. I think he genuinely regrets how he treated me. But sorry doesn't change the past. It doesn't give back those 8 years of invisibility. What it does remind me is that some people can learn and grow, even if that growth comes too late to save what we once had. Cypher Core is thriving now, with 50 employees and major contracts. I've been named to Forbes' 30 Under 30, invited to speak at conferences worldwide, recognized as a leading voice in cybersecurity. But the success I'm most proud of isn't money or recognition. It's the company culture I've built, where every contribution is acknowledged, where credit is given where due, and where no one has to fight to be seen. Sometimes, working late, I think about that younger version of myself. The 21-year-old Maya who believed good work would speak for itself, that family loyalty meant accepting whatever role you were given, that being behind the scenes was enough. I wish I could tell her, your work can only speak for itself if you give it a voice. Family loyalty is a two-way street. Being behind the scenes is fine if it's your choice, but it's a prison if someone else put you there. Most of all, I tell her that the moment you decide to step out of the shadows is terrifying and liberating in equal measure. And on the other side of that fear is someone you never knew existed, someone powerful, someone respected, someone who will never again let anyone claim her accomplishments. That's the lesson Marcus learned, though it cost him $40 million. That's what my father learned, though it damaged our relationship. And that's what I hope anyone reading this takes away. Respect isn't given freely. Sometimes you have to fight for it. And that fight is always worth it. Because I'd rather be visible and complicated than invisible and comfortable. I'd rather be respected than liked. And I'd rather own my truth, with all its sharp edges, than live in someone else's comfortable lie. That's what I was thinking walking out of that conference room, leaving Marcus to face investors without the technology he claimed to understand. I wasn't just walking away from a meeting. I was walking toward myself, toward the life I deserved, toward a future where my name would always be attached to my work. And I've never looked back.